Hey, Colt, it's Mrs. Aladdin. It's been a while since I've been with you to read from our story. I was out of town last weekend and then got stuck out of town in Washington for a couple of days, and it's been really busy, so I just hadn't gotten to it. But I'm back. We're about halfway done with our book, which is awesome. And it's really interesting because when we last left off, a hurricane had just come through, specifically a tornado spawned from the hurricane, came through the animal park, and it really destroyed a lot of the animals' habitats. And Bob was kind of running around looking for his friends and checking on people. The reason why I think that's really interesting is that I'm not sure if you've been watching or not, but there was a really big hurricane that came through the Gulf of Mexico and Florida this past week, this last couple of days, and it created a lot of devastation. I read that they received 4 months worth of rain in the span of about 4 hours. So that was a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And I know that I have a family that lived there, and a lot of their property was really badly damaged. And then in California, in Oregon and Washington, there's been all these crazy fires, and I know that a lot of people are being really impacted by that. So we have a lot of natural disaster kind of things happening around us that maybe can give us some sense of how scary it can be for Bob and the other animals that are dealing with this tornado and this hurricane. So let's jump back in, shall we? So this first chapter we're going to read is called Kudzoo. I pick my way through the debris, trying to lock on the sound. It isn't easy. Please help us. Climbing over the remains of the wall, the one I was sitting on what seems like just moments ago, I find myself on the bank of a moat. Ruby, I call at the top of my lungs. Uncle Bob! The sound of my name cuts through the gloom like a shaft of sun. Ruby runs to the opposite edge of the water. She's maybe 8 feet away, but I can barely make her out in the torrential rain. You stay there, I yell, trying to be heard over the wind. I'll come to you. I follow the bank until I come to a spot where several chunks of wall have tumbled into the water. 3 careful leaps and I'm across. Ruby runs to greet me. She wraps her mud-coated trunk around my neck, and boy, oh boy, am I happy to see that sweet little elephant. Are you hurt, Ruby? I ask. Is everyone all right? Ruby sniffles. Yes, but come quick. She dashes off before I can ask anything more. 5 of Ruby's aunts stand by the elephant side of the moat. Each one has her trunk plunged deep in the dark, muddy water. They look like a bunch of kids trying to find a lost toy in a swimming pool. It's almost funny until I see what they're looking for. A baby gorilla is in the moat. The tiny gal keeps grabbing for a trunk to hold on to and then slipping free. Her terrified screeches fill the air. It's Kudzoo, Ivan's favorite. Okay, here's Bob seeing Ruby. Oh, look at how happy they look. They're so happy to see something familiar and safe, I'll bet. What do you think that's going to happen next? Do you think that Bob's going to try to help Kudzoo? Well, let's find out. An idea. I'm going in, says Masika, one of the younger aunts. Might make things work, Akello cautions. Displaces the mud, pull her down toward the bottom. I could go in, I suggest, the words popping out before I can swallow them. It's more mud than water, Bob. Akello shakes her head. You'll get as stuck as Kudzoo. I didn't exactly argue the point. I've got an idea, comes a small voice. All the aunties turn to Ruby, and she looks startled to have their complete attention. A couple of us get on the other side of the moat, Ruby says. Grab trunks. We'll make like a what do you call it? A sling, I exclaim. A hammock like the gorillas have. I don't know, Ruby. Akello sounds doubtful. Kudzoo grabs for Masika's trunk with both hands. Wait, Masika says. I think I've got her this time. Masika lifts her trunk with deliberate slowness, carefully trying to support the baby gorilla, but once again, Kudzoo can't hold on. She lets out a despairing cry. Down she goes, lower this time, her nose and eyes just visible. Okay, Akello says with a nod at Ruby, let's give Ruby's idea a try. Masika, Lahela, Elodie, cross over to the far side. Xena, Ruby, and I will take this side. All 3 elephants move with surprising quickness to the spot where I crossed. They gallop back until they're facing us. It's strange to see them on the other side of the moat. With the wall destroyed, they're technically in Ivan and Kanaya's domain. Move down a bit, Akello instructs. That way, she motions with her head. We want to scoop her out, not push her down. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The elephants reach out for each other's trunk, creating a kind of cradle. Okay, now, says Akelo, lower carefully. So can you imagine there's three elephants on one side and three on the other, and they come together and they lock their trunks together to make like a basket, and then they're going to try to scoop the baby gorilla up out of the mud. Down they go into the muddy waters. Ruby nearly loses her footing. I grab her tail with my teeth. It doesn't really help, and she yelps, ouch, but my heart's in the right place. Kudzoo thrashes her tiny arms. Stay calm, I call. Easy for me to say. She looks over at me, and I'll never forget the fear in her dark eyes. And then she vanished below the surface. Team Elephant. Hurry, Ruby cries. The elephants bend lower, moving like a giant elephant shovel. Where is she? Masika asks. Lower, says Akelo. Lower, sisters. There, Ruby yells. No, no, wait, there. Up, Akelo commands, and the interlocking trunks rise from the muddy water to reveal a tiny, trembling baby gorilla sitting in their makeshift sling. Kudzoo, says Akela. Stay calm, baby. We're going to toss you to safety, okay? Kudzoo gives a little nod. On my count, says Akelo, start swinging. 1, 2, 3. Up and over go the trunks, and up and over goes Kudzoo. She lands with a little plop on the gorilla's side of the moat, right next to Masika's rear legs. Good work, everyone, says Akelo, and good thinking, Ruby. Thanks, elephants, said Kudzoo, wiping mud from her eyes. That was fun. Can we do it again? Akelo takes a deep breath. Maybe later, sweetheart. Quickly, I make my way back over the moat. Kudzoo, I say, follow me. Let's go find your 8 peeps. Can I go with Bob? Ruby asks Akelo. Akelo touches Ruby's back with her trunk. I'd much rather have you stay here, dear. And it's may I? But Uncle Ivan, Ruby pleads. I'll keep an eye on her, I tell Akelo. I'm going, Ruby says in her most determined voice. Maybe I can help. I helped just now. Akelo hesitates, but finally gives a slow nod. Probably she figures there's no arguing with Ruby. She's right on that one. Ruby crosses the moat and joins Kudzoo and me. Be careful, Akelo warns. There's more of that storm coming. I got her, Akelo, I say. You better have her, she warns. I think I flew, Bob, says Kudzoo as we weave our way through the wasteland that was Gorilla World. Yeah, me too, I say. It's been kind of that day. Wow, look at this. This is the Gorilla World sign. And there's this tree that's just up out. The roots are up out of the ground, and it's all over the sign. It takes a big storm to uproot a tree that size. What's out there? A handful of humans, firefighters and police mostly, have begun to roam the grounds, checking out the damage. We pass a park employee with a weapon slung over his shoulder and a net in one hand. Trank gun, he yells, passing a police officer. We don't know what's out there. She nods. How fast do they work? On something like a big cat, he shakes his head. Not fast enough. I look over at Ruby. Stay close, kid. As we near the gorilla villa, or what's left of it anyway, a screech hits my ears. It makes the wailing police siren sound like mewling kittens. It's Kanaya. She's frenetically knuckle running back and forth near the collapsed gorilla villa. Chunks of cement, shredded wooden beams, and bent metal lie everywhere. A cluster of gorilla females and juveniles huddle not far from some rescue workers. There's Mama, Kudzoo cries, dashing toward a gorilla named Jody. I'm so horrified by the destruction that I've almost forgotten my muddy little charge. I shouldn't be trusted as an ape sitter. Kudzoo darts over to her mother's waiting embrace. Jody nuzzles her and strokes her and says soothing, motherly gorilla things. Thank you, Jody mouths to me. Don't thank me, I say, looking over at Ruby. Thank this little gal. She figured out how to say Kudzoo. Thank you. Ruby, isn't it, Ivan's friend? Ruby gives a shy nod. We all helped. I provided moral support, I said. I flew, Mama, says Kudzoo. Of course you did, dear, said Jody. Kanaya's fresh wails focus my mind. I gotta go, I say. Ruby, you should stay here. I'm going for a no-nonsense voice, I'm going for a no-nonsense voice, the one Julia uses on me when she calls me Robert. Let me see what's what. I'll be right back. No way, Uncle Bob, Ruby replies just as firmly. I give up, but I'm afraid of what she might see and what we both might see. Any sign of Ivan? I asked Jody. She shakes her head, a grim look clouding her eyes. With Ruby by my side, we approach the pile of wreckage that used to be the gorilla villa. At that same moment, Ruby and I gasp. There's Ivan's head barely peeking through the rubble. Not moving. I know that hand like the back of my own paw. No, Ruby screams. Uncle Ivan. I check the crowd. No sign of Julia or George. Nothing. No Maya either, or other keepers I recognize. Just a few employees, several rescue workers, and 2 or 3 dazed-looking visitors. Is he alive? A firefighter asks. Hand, whatever it's called, isn't moving, says another. Weaving my way through the tangle of legs, I climb up the rubble pile, sniff a bit, and bark my loudest. Yes, he's alive. Get your rears in gear, bark. Just like those overachieving rescue dogs in the Man's Best Friend show. I listen for a sound from Ivan, a grunt, a cry for help. Nothing. Still, he smells alive. At least I think he does, and that's good enough for me. Xena. Another dog races over, a tough-looking German shepherd wearing an impressive glow-in-the-dark vest and some booty things to protect her feet from the rubble, but I hold my ground. This is my friend we're talking about. I lick Ivan's hand and his fingers twitch. Well, that's all it takes to get both of us barking like maniacs. More people gather. I see Maya next to Ruby, which makes me feel better. Name Xena, says the shepherd. Bob. I nudge Ivan's fingers with my nose. Nothing. This is Ivan. He's my best bud. I'm sorry to hear it, she replies, and I don't like the sound of her voice. With great care and far too slowly for my taste, rescue workers begin removing chunks of the wreckage and tossing them to one side. Xena and me, we mostly stay out of the way, but every so often I lick Ivan's hand just so he knows we've got him covered. I glance over at Maya and Ruby. Maya is wiping tears from her eyes while she strokes Ruby's ears. Ruby is giving Maya a comforting trunk hug. Good old Ruby, wise beyond her years, that gal. I check the crowd again. Still no sign of Julia or George. And that's when a sickening thought hits me like a bite to the belly. What if Ivan isn't the only one under the rubble? All right, well, we're going to pause there, and we'll come back and do some more reading tomorrow. And I'll probably do some reading through the whole weekend to make up for some lost time. I hope you have a great day, Colts, and I'll see you soon. Bye.